It only takes one notification from my friend on the top part of my screen saying, hey, you won't believe what happened, to completely derail my train of thought on something deep I was contemplating or writing. This literally happened this morning. The next few books have helped me overcome this, kind of. I still stumble a lot, but from teaching me how to embrace a more intentional, output-orientated life to embracing productivity that is actually sustainable and worthwhile over the superficial fluff we think of as productivity, but is actually mostly distraction, to learning how to use technology and not have it use me. All of these books in this episode have had a major impact in shaping my work-life balance. The books I'll be diving into in this episode are none other than Deep Work, Slow Productivity, and Digital Minimalism by Newport. Hey, I'm Josh. I'm a South African filmmaker and photographer, and when I'm not out filming or taking photos around the world, I'm right here in my Cape Town-based studio reviewing books and creating content. What I specifically love about Cull's books is that there is an extreme element of applicability and practicality. For me personally, it juxtaposes most of my more spiritual, esoteric books and gives me modern tools for modern problems. Book number one is Deep Work, and one of the reasons I'm a filmmaker and one of the reasons I love YouTube is because your work ultimately is all that matters. It speaks for itself, not what you have on your LinkedIn profile, not your pseudo CEO-manship on your Instagram bio, but whether you are actually producing art that tells a coherent story or not. That's all that really matters. And I love this. Carl wrote, if you don't produce, you won't thrive, no matter how skilled or talented you are. This reminds me of an old friend that I went to school with. He was probably one of the most talented people I knew, but he never produced, hardly ever. I'm not sure if it was fear of rejection, which we all have, me certainly, but I saw glimpses of his talent so many times as being a close friend of him, and I was often overcome with jealousy, but he just never took his art seriously and never really produced. In a nutshell, Deep Work is about embracing this philosophy that anything worthwhile requires you to eliminate surface level distractions like posting on social media, thinking that posting is advancing your skill set or making you a better creative or business owner. Rather than doing that, put your phone on airplane mode for 3 hours. You won't die, I promise. And working on something uninterrupted for a period of time, this non-distracted state is almost like meditation. Even if you do get distracted, the fact that you have committed to something, one task, is the point. You might find that after 2 or 3 hours of deep work, you slowly formulate these new myelin connections in your brain. And then over a week or two, you've actually made more progress than you ever thought you would. When I think of the way the modern economy is advancing, we're being kind of split into two. Maybe this has always been the case, but in the one hand, you've got a select few bunch of people that are willing to spend hours on a task and create something worthwhile that will be sold to the other group in the split, the consumers. And this is how I view the world. There are creators and there are consumers. And having a conversation with someone who is a creator creating something in the world is so much more different and vivid than someone who is a consumer. A creator knows deep down how much effort and energy goes into a piece of art, a video, a poem, an essay. Even if they don't necessarily resonate with it, they know that the artist has spent hours of blood, sweat, and tears to click that upload button. What's interesting here is that this rapidly economy-changing system like AI is giving people the most abundant and detailed knowledge in the world in seconds at the cost of diving deep. I'm not sure what the effects of this would be over time, and I have no doubt that Carl will write a book on AI, knowing him. But it's a little bit scary to know that our fundamental ability to think deeply and wrestle with topics or ideas for periods of time before that proverbial ting goes off in the brain, where that magical breakthrough happens, where ideas just pour out onto the page, is being replaced with a quick prompt or two on ChatGPT. And I love this by Carl. He wrote, "Deep work is not, in other words, an old-fashioned skill falling into irrelevance. It's instead a crucial ability for anyone looking to move ahead in a globally competitive information economy that tends to chew up and spit out those who aren't earning their keep. The real rewards are reserved not for those who are comfortable using Facebook, a shallow task, easily replicated, but instead for those who are comfortable building the innovative distributed systems that run the service, a decidedly deep task, hard to replicate. Deep work is so important that we might consider it, to use the phrasing of a business owner, Eric Barker, the superpower of the 21st century." Here's something. I get it. I'm not a saint. I use AI to help me formulate ideas or topics, and my most useful case has been to help me make things that I've always wanted to make, where it spits out detailed step-by-step instructions, but I've always felt overwhelmed to start. But maybe the new type of deep work is sitting with AI long enough to come up with great ideas or prompts to write you code for an app that runs your coffee shop, like my best friend. I don't know. The future, like most things in this case, is very uncertain, but here's the thing. For me, there's an unintended side effect to deep work. It's deep joy. There's a kind of peace or a feeling that comes at the end of a hard day's work, deep work, which has this inherent satisfaction built in it. I once read that the byproduct of your focus is happiness, not the other way around, which we always think of it like that way. Thinking you need to be in a certain state or in a good mood to create from is a fallacy. Try working on your focus, and from that point, you reap the rewards of a more peaceful, joyous, deep work-orientated life. Another key aspect I loved about the book was kind of surprising, was a key takeaway, was the power of like tuning in and dropping out, but also dropping out and tuning in. Allow yourself the comfortable knowing that your rest is vital to your next day's work. Don't unnecessarily push and work on things late into the evening because you feel you need to be busy. Rest is medicine for the working mind and will make you stronger the next day. This is something that I need to learn, and I'm trying to continually learn and teach myself. But to end book one, as Carl asserts, the deep life, of course, is not for everyone. It requires hard work and drastic changes to your habits. For many, there's a comfort in the artificial busyness of rapid email messaging and social media posturing, while the deep life demands that you leave much of that behind. There's also an uneasiness that surrounds any effort to produce the best things you're capable of producing, as this forces you to confront the possibility that your best has not yet arrived or is not yet that good. It's safer to comment on our culture than to step into the Rooseveltian ring and attempt to wrestle it into something. Quick pause in today's video to mention Readwise. I reached out to Readwise because I've been using Readwise for years. When I read my books, I highlight them, and what they do is they send you this cool little email summary each day of your highlights on different books you've read. You can customize it to show certain books more and certain books less, if any. I love this because every day when I wake up, it's something that I will look at, and when I do go on my email, which I try and schedule some time for it, when I go on my email, I open up, the first thing I see is my Readwise highlights, and I go through them, and these highlights for me are just like little synapses that happen because you're now remembering the things that you are reading. So thanks to Readwise for hopping on board for this video and future episodes. So click the link in the description and go give it a go. You'll get 2 months for free. And I look forward to hearing what you think of Readwise. Book number 2 is Slow Productivity, and the name is pretty self-evident, but the key principles to slow productivity as outlined by Newport are: 1, do fewer things; 2, work at a natural pace; and 3, obsess over quality. I love Carl's work because it all builds on one another. Most of his books, especially in this trilogy, complement each other so well. And he writes, if you're struggling to care for a sick relative or dealing with an illness of your own or grappling with any number of disruptive life events, the demand to prove your worth through visible activity produces similar inner turmoil. A particularly widely felt example of this dynamic came from the pandemic, which acted as a powerful accelerant to the burgeoning anti-productivity movement, in part because of the way in which the logic of pseudo-productivity demanded knowledge workers to continue their frenzied dance of electronic busyness, even as Rome seemingly burnt around them. What was needed was time and space to adjust and grieve. What was provided instead were upgraded Zoom accounts and a cheerful email exhortations to stay productive. It was crazy making. You remember that time when we wore polyester masks over our face, even outside? I love this line by Carl because it describes even the need for us to be visible beyond our professional environments. Social media has this built-in mechanism these days where if we are not proclamating at the top of our lungs, to our circle of followers and friends, hey, look at me, look what I'm doing, look what I'm eating, look where I'm going, then we are deemed kind of unworthy, or seemingly so. Social media has made celebrities out of all of us, yet not many want to accept the uncomfortable truth that celebrities are some of the most depressed, unhappy, unfulfilling people barely walking the earth. And Carl provides solace by writing, "Our exhausting tendency to grind without relief, hour after hour, day after day, month after month, is more arbitrary than we recognize. It's true that many of us have bosses or clients making demands, but they don't always dictate the details of our daily schedules. It's often our own anxieties that play the role of the fiercest taskmaster. We suffer from overly ambitious timelines and poorly managed workloads due to a fundamental uneasiness with ever stepping back from the numbing exhaustion of jittery busyness." I found myself again and again placing an unrelenting pressure on myself due to the expectations I've had about the way or progress I think is needed to be made on a project based off of false assumptions in the first place. Often this leads me to, as Carl describes, run around in a frenzy, dipping my foot into projects, but never truly making deep progress over time. This for me is why it's critical to take a step back sometimes, slow down, meditate, and come to the realization that a lot of the pressure I put on myself is my own making. The last principle of slow productivity is, for me, a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it's super important to obsess over quality, especially in today's surface level, content-driven world that has become almost like fast fashion. Content has been made to be thrown away. It's made to be worn quickly and then discarded. There's something magnetic that comes out of a piece of work that has been wrestled with for hours, days, weeks, months, or even years, and you finally see it come to fruition. You can literally feel the vibration of the quality through your screen from the artist. But on the other hand, I've found that quality needs to have an upper limit. As a YouTuber and a filmmaker, I need to sometimes realize that done is better than perfect. I think, to quote Casey Neistat. Sometimes projects or even people, friends, relationships come into your life to teach you something about yourself. But at the same time, they are not meant to be something that is obsessed over. They are there to be let go of so that the lessons can be learned. And the lessons can only really be learned once the project or the relationship has come to a close. The final book in this trilogy is Digital Minimalism. And this is my most recent read from Carl. And this is the inroads to certain books are sometimes fascinating to me. It was my friend Dave B who told me about this podcast series called The Shimmer Series by Eric Godsey, and he spoke about these 3 books. I realized I had read 2 of them, Deep Work and Slow Productivity, but Digital Minimalism was the one that was missing. And sometimes I like to think of this as God's way of speaking to me. Like when a certain piece of creativity or art catches your eye, or even a book mentioned in passing that sparks your interest, I tend to pay attention to these moments as they are subtle clues from the universe to the next phase of my learning and journey. And of course, not all books are about learning. Some are about pleasure too. But even for me, at least, even in the pleasure, there's a kind of learning and undoing. For me, Digital Minimalism, like many of Carl's books, is a practical approach through compelling stories and case studies, as he's so good at doing, on how to minimize digital noise and embrace a more analog rich way of living. What I loved was that by becoming a digital minimalist, I've actually enjoyed a deeper connection to the digital world in some strange way. The digital realm now it should not be taken for granted. It is psychedelic. It's this constrained playground where I get to learn, build, become engaged, and create anything I want because I've created these rules. But this can only really happen via reverence for the machine. And some of the ways that I've become a digital minimalist myself are something using like a Remarkable, which I don't have on me. It's a paper tablet which has one job: to take notes. And you can surf the internet on it, you can read PDFs, but it's a fucking mission. And I love that. That's the point. The same goes for my Kindle, which I also don't have on me right now. When you read on an iPad or an iPhone, the likelihood of you getting a distracted, fragmented message is high. It will only take one meme from my bestie Mitch to completely throw me off my deep work. Turning off all my notifications, number 2, and batching my use of social media. I don't always get this right, but when I do, I feel so much better. I like to think of it as intermittent social media fasting. I schedule blocks of time to check my social media, check my emails, or post when I decide to, and then I delete the app. And often this is limited to 1 hour per day, and I set a timer. But once the time is up, I found that, these days I get a bit over social media and I finish before the time is even done. It's almost like I've had too much food at a buffet and I end this 1 hour batch early. But over time, my brain starts to crave more nutritious sources of fulfillment, like a good book or an interesting film or even meditation, over short bursts of dopamine abundant likes, comments, or meme sharing, which is always cool. But yeah, you get a bit over it. 3, I've narrowed my social presence to max 2 platforms: YouTube and Instagram. And I'm not too sure these count though for me, because they've become an extension of my blog and my writing, and I've deleted my traditional Facebook accounts, my personal Instagram accounts, my X, my TikTok. Never even got a chance. I was way too overwhelmed to get TikTok. But this narrow focus, and I suppose this might count as number 4 on the list, being super selective of who I follow and what I like, has made me way more intentional online. This might sound trite, or to some it might sound selfish, but I really think we are in the midst of a giant experiment on our brains globally with social media. And if you don't have strong rules around your use of social media, you are going to fall into an anxiety-ridden state that leaves you in a perpetual loop, searching for more dopamine each time you access the machine. These books are a great foundational ground on where I get off my spiritual high horse and dive more into more grounded ways that I can navigate the modern world, more effectively. The biggest realization I've had is that, believe it or not, if you leave your phone in your house and go for a walk, or God forbid you actually use your credit card instead of your phone's virtual card to pay for your coffee at your local coffee shop, you won't die. You will not be left alone, stranded, and in need of an ambulance in that hour or two you're walking. You will be fine. In fact, you might find the slow simmer of anxiety leave you effortlessly as you have real, meaningful conversations with people. Conversations that are not forced, they occur as they should, naturally, organically. And these conversations or interactions can only really take place if you are willing to let your addiction to tech evaporate in that moment and open up to where you are. It's like going to a bar and not having your beer in your hand as a social lubricant. Even if it's fucking awkward without your phone, sit with the uncomfortable feelings, make friends with them. I promise you, people don't care about you. They care about themselves. They care more about themselves than you. As I write this closing thought, today, I woke up at 5 a.m., I made coffee, I journaled, I meditated, I sat down to write for a few hours before the start of my day, all because my phone has not been looked at yet at that moment. It's been on charge away from my bedroom on Do Not Disturb. This type of living is not a form of bypassing the way things are. It's actually a form of mindfulness. It's inviting a sanctuary of peace before the inevitable distractions of daily life unfold. Yet, it's this exact way of living that gives you more peace of mind when the chaos does unfold, and it will. But you are more able to handle it because you're giving your spirit what it fundamentally, ultimately craves, which is focus. Thanks for watching. Thanks for indulging me. I appreciate you. It's an honor to walk this path with you. I hope you're enjoying these episodes. These episodes would not be possible without Readwise, my companion in making my highlights, and them sending it to me every day. And yeah, like super, super grateful for them. And I would like to hear from you. Have you read these books? What stands out for you? Which of these books stands out more, less? Which quotes resonates with you? Obviously, this is super subjective and it's super related to my experience, but I do feel like we now more than ever need the inputs from people like Carl to give us, or to at least help us with these strategies. I can even see books like this coming into effect in school, in schooling systems. If I had these in school, I probably would have taken some of this to heart, and I probably would have, really listened to what is being said, because these platforms and beyond social media, just our inability these days to embrace deep work and embrace thinking for ourselves, it's quite scary. It's quite apocalyptic. It really is to sit at a coffee shop these days and just realize the level of distraction that is taking place. We are so afraid of our own thoughts now, and we're so connected to all the suffering that is happening. And I'm not negating it. It's just the level of connection to all the suffering in the world is a lot for our empathic brains to handle. At least it is for me, So, Carl, if you ever watch this, thank you for your work. I love it. Your writing and your books have had a major impact on me, and this is kind of like an offering to the world. It's a kind of my perspective on it, but I'm so grateful for your work. If you ever watch this, I will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you for the support. Please like, subscribe, comment. It does go a long way. And follow me on Instagram at Josh_Sneeman. Thanks, guys. See you in the next one. Cheers for now.